Welcome to the Offshore Club's fun-filled, fact-filled, fast-paced, blockbuster podcast, Coffee with Carib Carter, coming to you exclusively from where the sun never sets on the good life at a great price. And now, fill up your favorite coffee mug and join your expert and your guide, Carter Clews.
Hi, this is Carter Clews, and I want to welcome you to the inaugural edition of Coffee with Carib Carter. This is a show all about helping you move to the Caribbean, Central America, just like I did. It's on every Monday at 10 o'clock sharp. I want you to tune in. It's our time together. Grab a cup of coffee. See, Coffee with Carib Carter. You see my C there, Carib and Carter. Good to the last drop. See how many of you remember where that came from. And we're going to be casual. We're going to take it easy. After all, we're talking the Caribbean. We're talking laid back. We're talking the good life at a great price. Going to be spontaneous. We're going to enjoy ourselves. But also, I promise you, I am going to give you information that's going to be very, very valuable to you about how you can make the move to the sun, the surf, the sand. The good life for prices that you simply can't believe, and where you can once again breathe free. So here's what I want to do. Each episode in Coffee with Carib Carter, I've divided it into sections. I'll tell you why. Because I'm old, and I remember when we had magazines, and magazines had sections, and you went to the section you liked, right? So we're going to divide this into sections at this show. So you'll be able to say, you know what, I'm going to skip this section and go to the next section because my favorite part is whatever. I hope you have a favorite part. First of all, every episode, every Monday, 10 o'clock, Coffee with Carib Carter, I'm going to start off with what I'm calling a day in the life. Okay? A day in the life. It's a day in my life when I lived in Honduras. I don't live there right now. I'll explain all that to you later. But for right now, when I lived there for over a year. I liked it. And I'm going to tell you experiences. Some of you are going to find funny. Some of you are going to find poignant. They're going to be illustrative, okay? A day in the life. So you really know, well, what's it going to be like when I make my move, all right? And 2, frequently asked questions. I really do get pretty much the same questions time after time about what life is like in Central America, living in the Caribbean, foreign country, different culture, different language. And I'll answer those questions. You know, people say to me, well, Carter, you live there. What was XYZ like? I'm going to tell you, okay? Point blank, good, the bad, and the ugly. For me, it was mostly good. So I'm going to tell you about the third section, the Mad Max report. Some of you are not going to like this. Some of you are not going to like the Mad Max report because I'm going to tell you what's going on in the United States that makes it time for you to get out. I'm just telling you. And I'm telling you that sincerely as someone who cares about you, cares about your safety, your future, your finances, the whole 9 yards. I'm going to level with you. I spent 50 years. You see all these wrinkles? Great. That's what it's from. 50 years in politics in Washington. I know what the politicians are. I know what they have in store. I'm going to share that with you in the Mad Max report, not right this second. Fourth, $1,000 listing Caribbean. That's right. Some of you are fans of, I'm a huge fan of Ryan Serhant, $1 Million Listing New York. I read both his books. I recommend them to you. They're delightful reading. If you don't want to sell anything, they're great reading. I'm going to give you $1,000 listings Caribbean. You're going to be shocked. You're going to be shocked at some of these deals. I'll give you a hint. Okay, my home that I own in Honduras, my wife and I own, 3 bedrooms, 2-car garage, beautiful yard with banana trees, orange trees, whatever fruit. They got them all down there. Gated, fenced. I paid $30,000. Did you say $30,000, Carib Carter? Yes, I did. Those are the kind of things I'm going to show you. All right. 5, friends and family. Every episode, I'm going to do an interview for you, sometimes more than one, of people who are actually already living the good life at a great price in the Caribbean. One of the countries, Honduras, Guatemala, Nicaragua, Panama, and they will tell you what it's really like. As a matter of fact, today, we're going to go back to it because I have 4 today. 4. And I'll tell you, when I put them in context, you're going to say, that's what I'm looking for. I'll put them in context for you. And then occasionally special, what I'm calling potpourri. Potpourri. These are little special segments I'm going to do that I think you're going to like. Some is going to be some offshore investment advice, okay? Some of it's going to be, asset protection. I know the greatest asset protection attorney in the world, Joel Nagel. I might get him on in the potpourri to talk to you occasionally. And I'm going to have my wife from Honduras, who every once in a while is going to show you how to make a Honduran dish right here on the show, like baleadas. Wait till you make them. Wait till you taste them. You're going to say, thank you, Carter. Thank you. That's the most useful thing you've done. So, all right, let's get back to the beginning. All right, let's do this thing. Let's do this thing. And at the beginning, I promised I want to tell you a story that, because these opening stories, a day in the life, are going to help you understand what you're looking at. Okay, so you know that what you're looking for, both. So I'll tell you a story, then you'll say, oh, so that's what it's like. One of my favorite stories, one of my favorites is I lived for a while. Now, my home is on the mainland. I lived over a year on the mainland, outside of La Ceiba. It's the tourist capital of Honduras. But I also lived 6 months before that on Roatan Island, okay? And Roatan Island it's like saying, where can I live in a tropical island to die for? Like you see in all the Roatan Island. Roatan Island is just a vacationer's paradise, and there's still some good prices on homes there, and it is mostly, to be honest with you, it's mostly Canadians, Italians, Americans. I think I met 4 Hondurans the whole time I was on Roatan Island. But on Roatan, they have an airport, and this is illustrative because when you hear this, you say, okay, that's what it's like to live there. I'll never forget, I fly into the airport on Roatan Island. It's a very small airport. When the planes are kind of coming to land, the pilot has to say, please remove the cows from the landing strip, right? Okay, you circle one more time. So we land, I go in the airport, and I'm going by the check-in counter where people are waiting to board flights. And a woman is there, and this is illustrative, folks, because when I tell you it's laid back, remember, it's a different world, and I think you're going to like this world. It's a very nice world. She's there, but she is irate. She's obviously an American tourist, right? And she's just yelling and hollering, I need a flight out of here, and I need it now. And the man says, yeah, lo siento, I'm sorry, the flight is no... He's late. Will no be here for 2 hours. 2 hours will not be. I can't. That's not good. I have to be on that flight right now. Right now. And he says, ma'am, is a key. It's not here. And she says, well, I need to get, no problema, man. And she's saying, no problema. He's no problema. He's smiling, and he's not being a wise guy. He's not being a smarty. Oh, there's no problem. It is a problem. She's on. Finally, I had to walk up to her, and she's getting more and more angry. And I can tell she's angry because this guy, she thinks the guy is taking it lightly. I had to go up. I had to stop and say, ma'am, I need to explain something to you. When he tells you that your flight being 2 hours late is no problema, he really means it. Okay. You are in Central America. Okay. You are now in a country where mañana is a term of urgency to them. Okay, so man, just relax, go over here to Cafe Americano, grab a cup of coffee. I'll sit down and talk with you. But that's life. That's life in Central America, in the Caribbean. And God bless her, she realized, you know what? Okay, now I see what you're talking about. But I'm telling you that because if you live a life of hassles and hustles and stress and mess, I want you to watch this show for these little vignettes, slice of life vignettes, a day in the life with Carib Carter every Monday before you make your move, and consider them kind of like if you were diving a decompression chamber, okay? Because when you make your move, I want you to enjoy it, and I want you to shed all the burdens. So goodbye pressure, goodbye. I'm here now. It's fun in the sun. Even if you're working full time, I worked the whole time I was there because I did telecommuting, or nowadays it's popular. Back then, it was a couple of years back, it wasn't, but I did, and it was great. And a lot of you are going to do the same thing. Some of you are just going to retire and put on your sandals, and that's it. So there you go. That's a day in the life, and every week, let's start out with that. And you take a breath and say, okay, now I see what you're talking about. Where do I get my ticket? And where do I get my home? And I'll tell you a little more about that later. But now instead of going to what's normally going to be the next section of frequently asked questions, and then the Mad Max report, we may not get to one today. What I want to do for the bulk of this show, I hope you enjoy Coffee with Carib Carter. Get your coffee, enjoy it. I prefer Maxwell House, but Folgers is good too. As a matter of fact, I'm going to make you a special offer that I'm going to help you get real Honduran and Nicaraguan coffee, okay, so that we can enjoy together. And I'm going to find a way to get it for you at a discount delivered to you. But we'll talk about that in a future episode. It occurred to me. I thought, yeah, I can do that. You're going to die for that coffee, okay? So there, I've been there where they roast it the whole nine, where they grow it. It's incredible. So we're going to have our coffee together every Monday at 10. But you have incredible treats throughout the rest of the week, okay? Throughout the rest of the week, your Offshore Club, and it is your club, and I want you to understand that this club is here for one reason, and that's to help you. This is your online home for offshore life, okay? So right now you may be living it virtually. Hopefully one day you'll be there live and in person. And the Offshore Club is where you come to learn all about it. We're lifestyle, we're people to people, and that's what I'm getting ready to tell you. The next 4 days of the week, you're with me on Monday, thank you. Tuesday, you are with Elisa Esquivel, who lives every Tuesday. She's going to bring you her vlog, where she's going to tell you what it's like. It's called the Expat Mom. She's going to tell you what it's like to be a single mom. I think 4 kids, yeah, little kids, raising them in Belize, okay? So those of you who are mothers there, fathers, young families saying, I don't know, what about if I have kids? Wait till the Expat Mom every Tuesday at 10 tells you how much she's enjoying life and her kids are, okay, in Belize. Yeah. The only thing you're going to wonder is, why didn't I move sooner? Okay, I'm just telling you. That's every Tuesday at 10. I'm lining these up for you because in a minute we're going to roll 4 back-to-back interviews with these 4 people who, just letting you know, they're going to tell you a little bit about what they're going to bring you every weekday from now until when the roll's called up yonder, okay? You're going to be able to come in every day and watch one of these shows. On Wednesday, you're going to watch the Family Man. Patrick Hebert, great guy, one of the nicest guys you're ever going to meet. Has a home in Nicaragua, not only a home, but he raised his family there. His kids are grown now, but he raised them there, took them there when they were younger. Great husband, great father, very, very successful businessman. Some of you out there are a lot younger than me. You're saying, Carter, yeah, when you get to be your age, you put on your sandals and shorts, and you go wander around, in Honduras or Nicaragua, whatever. But I got to work for a living. Hey, Patrick works for a living. Very nice living. He's going to tell you how that works. The Family Man, raise a family there, and Patrick is a super guy, bright guy, every Wednesday at 10 o'clock. If you're a family man, family woman, Patrick, by the way, Patrick also has a great charity that helps people down there. And some of you are going to say, I want to be part of that from afar. Maybe one day when you get there, you'll be even more a part of it. It's very nice. Thursday is Roving with Rachel. Rachel Jensen she is single, successful businesswoman. Yeah. Single, successful businesswoman living in Panama. And she is, she's going to tell you what life is like. Some of you are young singles out there. God bless you. And you're thinking, well, what's life if you're single down there? What if you're just starting out in your career? What's the, not just the social life, but the work life, the day-to-day life. What's entertainment for people our age? Rachel is just, you'll see in my introduction I refer to her as being dynamic and delightful, and you're about to see it, okay? Because we're ready to roll all of these, all 4 of these. Friday is your ambassador at large throughout Central America. Mike Cobb has been a friend of mine for 20 years. He owns 4 resorts. That's right, 4 residential resorts in the Caribbean. One of them you may end up living in one day. And if you do, you're going to love it, and you're going to love Mike. And so he is there day in and day out. He can tell you, those of you who say, I might want to be an entrepreneur, you can't. He is not an entrepreneur, as I say in the introduction. Well, I'm saying it now. You'll hear it in a second. But he's every Friday at 10 o'clock. He's also going to give you some ideas about where the smart money might go there eventually, okay? So Mike Cobb. So there you go. You got me on Mondays, and I thank you for joining me. Let's do this every Monday together. And then the 4 people you're going to see next, Brian, my super producer, Brian, you're just going to roll them back to back, right, Brian?
That's correct. Yep.
All right. He's a good man. That's my super producer, Brian Bauman. You're going to hear his voice. He actually has a head and a body. He's just not on with me because I'm a camera hog. Okay. So, but you will hear his voice, his melodious voice. And so, Brian, you're going to roll them back to back. And what you're going to see, folks, are 4 interviews with the 4 people whose shows you can watch. You watch me on Monday. Watch me on Monday. Coffee with Carib Carter. Grab your coffee. Tuesday, the Expat Mom. You're going to love that. Wednesday, you're going to see the Family Man, Patrick. Thursday, Rachel, Roving with Rachel. Friday, open mic with Mike Cobb. I call it open mic because he's going to tell you, open up about all his secrets about how to be successful south of the border. All right, Brian, you ready to roll, buddy?
We're ready.
Make it happen. As you're about to learn, my guest that I have coming up right now, Patrick Hebert, is really a man of many hats. And you're going to see every Wednesday on his own offshore TV podcast how he wears those many hats. Patrick is a husband, father of three grown children now, and a man who has his own charity in Nicaragua, which is just incredible. It's very touching. So he's helping a lot of people. All of this he's doing in his offshore incarnation, if you will. And Patrick, can you share with us how others can pull off the same hat trick and enjoy the good life offshore? Welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Carter. Thank you for having me on the show. As I said earlier, I'm not much of an interviewee, but for me, it's a bit like being asked to sleep with the Queen Mother. It's quite an honor, but you still don't necessarily want to do it. But
well said. Well said.
I think what I kind of want to talk to people about over the next few weeks and months is kind of, I guess, encapsulated in the word community. I think a lot of part, when you're coming down to a new world, a new country, new region, a lot of it is about having the like-minded people around you and friends and things like that. Everybody plans a lot for, okay, well, am I going to move my furniture and what am I going to do and all those sorts of things. But I think what people tend to forget sometimes is you got to rebuild a community, and I think for me it was a kind of a lucky thing to start the foundation. It was as helpful for me as it was for the people that we were helping, because it was very rewarding, but it also helped build the community. So there's lots of little things that you can do along the way to make your life down here an amazing lifestyle.
And which you have done, and which you, if I'm not mistaken now, you made the move to Nicaragua with your family 11 years ago. 11 years ago. So as your show is, as I said, it's called The Family Man. It was a family move. And what was that like for the entire family to pick up roots and say, hey, let's go down and live in Nicaragua? And what was it like, so people know, because we want them to do the same for their own good, for their own happiness. What was it like when you first set roots down and said, wow, now this is different?
Well, it wasn't a immediate thing. It actually, we went down, make a real long story short, we were going down to Costa Rica originally, and then just as a family vacation, and a friend had a house on the beach in Nicaragua. And just so everybody knows, I'm a Canadian citizen. I love Canada. I'm very happy to have a Canadian passport. It allows me to travel around the world very easily. But I'm a Nicaraguan resident now, and when my family was, my kids were quite young, we started going to Nicaragua probably 2004 or 5, and it was a slow progression thing, and it's funny. Lots of millions, of stories, but people were so concerned, obviously, about the safety and things like that. And I did my research. Nicaragua is the second safest country in the Americas, next to Canada. So
Wow.
I wasn't
Wow.
worried about that, and that was one of the reasons I chose Nicaragua. But also, everybody's saying, "Well, how can you pull your kids out of school?" And I guess I was lucky when I was young, and third grade or something like that. My parents were kind of Canadian snowbirds that would come down to Phoenix, Arizona, and they'd take me out of school for a couple months. And for me, I was doing the same thing with my kids. Kids are learning new culture. Obviously, Canadian to American culture is not as different as maybe coming from the U.S. down to Nicaragua, but you learn new culture, learn new currencies, new languages. And my kids would do an hour of school every day, and they'd come back after a few months to the Canadian school, and they'd be ahead of all the other kids. It's just an inefficient school system. So,
Wow. Wow.
And plus they learned all the extra stuff. So.
Let's learn. I'm glad you talked about that. The idea of it's not as big as a transition as people think once you just dive into it. My father was a Methodist minister. We moved almost every 5 years. And at one point, we moved from a small town to Baltimore, Maryland, the big city. I think the town we had lived in had 2,000 people. At the time, Baltimore had 1 million. And so people said, well, was it traumatic? And you know what? Pretty quickly you find out, this, as you said, once you settle in, you start making friends, and the family starts saying, wow, this is a different culture, but it's a good culture. It's a pretty good life. How long did it take your kids to acclimate?
Well, we went back and forth quite a bit between countries, but I kind of told, it's amazingly quick. I honestly, for me, even when I have to go out of the country for a while and I come back, I still kind of reacclimate again. But I would say it's kind of like, for me, it turned out to be like 5 weeks. It's really quite quick. And again, the people, Central American, Latin American countries I find to be extremely friendly people. I mean, as a Canadian, people are always telling me, "Oh, your country's so friendly," and it's like, yeah, I think Central America is right up there, as friendly or friendlier than Canada.
Yeah, I found I have as I've told our viewers, I have a home in Honduras, and I lived there for a year, and I found exactly the same thing. Very pleasant people, very unassuming people, and hardworking, industrious, and just welcoming. It's I tell people, don't expect them to say, "Oh my God, isn't this wonderful? We have a gringo moved in next door," and not quite that, but it certainly is almost like you're just another neighbor, which is all any of us really want, right?
That's probably, it's funny because, I've been asked what are the best things about moving down to Central America in my case, and I have to say, meeting my wife. My second wife is I got to put that up there because she might be listening to this. My
She's going to be a viewer, yeah.
Doctor from Ecuador, and we happened to meet in Nicaragua. She was helping out with the foundation, so that's how we met. So, but the other thing you're mentioning, I find everything that I like about this area and this region kind of morphs over time, but I think right now the thing that stands out for me the most is kind of what you're saying, acceptance. I call it, like, there's no difference between me and my neighbors, based on my heritage or whatever. In their world, there's no cancel culture, there's no censorship. It's just none of the nonsense that I feel like is going on in North America right now, and it's just none of those preconceived ideas of what somebody is because of what they look like. So I really like that about this area.
Yeah, I share that. I share that enthusiasm. We're almost out of time here, but I do want to take a moment for you to tell us about your charity, because I admire you for it, and I love the name of it. And I'm sure in your offshore TV show in weeks, months, hopefully years ahead, you're going to give people an opportunity to help others at your charity, help them help themselves. Can you tell us a little about what touched your heart to do it, and what exactly do you do?
Well, again, try to make a long story short, I was fortunate enough, I was in the software business actually long before coming down here. And I was lucky enough to sell it and be able to take some time off while my kids were still young and spend a lot of time with them. And, you know, we worked my children and I helped out in orphanages in Mexico. And ultimately that kind of morphed into helping out in Nicaragua. But it's always been, I mean, in the name, help them help themselves. It's always been kind of my philosophy is, you know, help give a hand up, not a handout.
Beautiful.
And you make a bigger change. And it's really expanded over time. Excuse me. We really started, you know, building small homes for people. And I think we learned a lot of lessons, but I think one of the things that we did that was quite wise was we went into the different villages and asked the elders of the village, you know, who is the people that, you know, need the most help here. We didn't just assume and go and plow in there and do whatever we wanted to do. And usually it was somebody like a mother with a lot of children who the father had been in an accident or something and she was struggling. So they, you know, we would help them. But then it grew into, we built schools. We built a clinic together with a Grand Pacifica resort in Nicaragua. And we do a lot of medical missions and a lot of dental missions where we've helped thousands of people. And it's very rewarding. In fact, we've expanded into helping giant sea turtles. We've built 2 giant sea turtle sanctuaries, and they're an amazing kind of prehistoric creature that's endangered. But, you know, we're changing their outcome from a 2% survival rate to a 95% survival rate based on the sanctuary. So it's a lot of fun, and it is a really good way. You know, people that want to come down, and whether you like animals, you want to help out with the turtles, or you want to help out with people, there's so much to do, and it's a great way to meet amazing people too. You're working all day and long, and then you're enjoying the evening together with folks, and it's a great way to build that community around you too.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us, and thank you for what you're doing. And folks, Patrick is going to be on with the Family Man show I think it's every Wednesday. And it's something you want to watch. This is someone you want to get to know, because one day you may decide, you know what, I like what he's saying, I like what he's doing, and I'd like to be part of it. And as you can see, it's a good life. It's a good life, and with good people in a beautiful country. Patrick, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for having your own show on Offshore TV. And I know that I'm looking forward to watching you every week, and I'm sure our other viewers are too. Thank you for joining us.
Well, I really appreciate you having me on, Carter. Thanks a lot.
My next guest is the host, the star of her own Offshore TV podcast, brand new, called the Expat Mom, which is definitely what she is. Elisa Esquivel is a successful businesswoman in Belize, and most importantly, to a lot of you viewers out there who are going to love her show every Tuesday, she is the mother of not 1, not 2, not 3, 4 children. And so she's going to tell you how to enjoy the good life at a great price, the fun in the sun in beautiful Belize or any other Central American, Caribbean country, your choice, while being an expat mother. Elisa, welcome.
Thanks, Carter. So happy to be on your show today and just get a chance to chat about what it looks like to be a family overseas.
So you have your children, I think, are just so the folks will know, folks, whatever age your children are, when you hear the ages of hers, you're going to say, wow, if she can be a mother of children those ages offshore, I can do it. Your children, give us the ages here. I just love it.
Yeah, our oldest, Faith, is 7. She just turned 7 in January. And then our next is 5, Josiah. Then our, I guess, middle half is Benaiah, and he's 3. And then our youngest is Isaiah, and he just turned a year in December.
Fantastic. Folks, you're going to, as you're going to see in the next few minutes, and then every Tuesday on the Expat Mom for the next 10 years, hopefully, or more. Elisa is one of the most delightful people, as well as a very successful, very, very efficient businesswoman, one of the most delightful people I know. And, you know, I've enjoyed our time together. What would you say to a mother out there your age who has young children, if she said, well, yeah, I'd love to move to some place as beautiful as where you live, and with the lower prices. But I'm just, how hard is it to raise? How hard will it be to raise my children? What do they do? What do they do?
You know, the funny thing is, Carter, I think it's just as hard as it is any place else, right? It's as hard as you make it. And it's raising kids. Kids are always going to have their own challenges, their own unique blessings, right? But here's the thing, okay? So when my kids finish school at the end of the day, we go down to the ocean and they get to play on the beach for hours.
Wow.
Can you get better than that? You know, that's the thing. We go and we take a vacation and we get the chance to enjoy it. And so I think, you know, the biggest thing I would just say to people is stop limiting yourself. Stop thinking that you have to be a certain way or do a certain thing or have certain things set up in place in order to be able to choose this as your life. Really, it's as hard as you make it. And the opportunities, the enjoyment, the things that, you know, the things I grew up doing, right? When I was growing up, I could go in my backyard, I'd be gone for hours, right? And my mom didn't worry at all. But, you know, here I was in the woods playing with who knows what. And that's just not, every time we venture back to the States or we're back in the States with our kids, you can't just go to the park and drop your kids off at the park and leave them for hours at a time. It's just not the same environment. So being able to know, like, I can take my kids to the beach. They can play at the beach. Yes, I'm at the beach with them. I don't leave them at the beach unsupervised. But it's just a totally different peace of mind and ability to know, okay, I don't have to worry about some of the things that I would have to worry about if we lived in the States.
Beautiful, beautiful. And you are, if you are actually a second generation expat mom, right? Didn't your mother take you to like 1,000 different countries when you were little? I saw the list.
We did travel a lot, but we never actually lived overseas. My mom is international trade, and she, as long as I can remember, had brought home trinkets and things from other places. I mean, I had a chopstick set from Japan when I was maybe 5 or 6. I had a tea set that was like a tea set, you know, the little tea sets you get for tea from China. That was a ceramic set that I had, you know, that I played with as a kid instead of playing with like the play school preset. It was, you know, the plastic one. I had the Chinese set that was from China that a friend of hers gave her. So we didn't actually live overseas, but as long as I can remember it, that's been part of my life, is the understanding of other cultures and the blessings they bring, and also just the beauty of other cultures.
Beautiful. And Belize is beautiful. And what would you say to the mother says, what about my children's education? You know, that the schooling is very important to me now. In the U.S., look, let's just be honest. There is no school in the U.S. anymore. We're done. It's shut down. I talked to, and I'm not going to dwell on this, but I talked to a gentleman yesterday in California, and the school principal where he was said, we'll never open the school again. So yeah, your expression says that. Your expression is exactly what mine was. So schooling, I'm going to say it, I think it may be better in Belize for your children. What do you think?
You know, I think this day and age, with everything happening, honestly, yes, you can bring a excellent education to your children. You know, I think really honestly, we have, as parents, have gotten the test of time right now with schooling with our kids, and everybody's kind of figured out, okay, this is how I can do this. This is what I can do. And, you know, you figure out, okay, what works for my family. And I think that's another misconception, is people think, okay, that's a one fit all, right? I don't know about growing up for you, but for me, I feel like everybody went to public school pretty much. And there was the off family that went to a private school, but for the most part, everybody was in a public school. It was a one size fits all. And, you know, in this generation of education for our kids, that's not the case. You can, as what we're doing right now, right? Mm-hmm. We have one daughter who's in a private school right now here, and another who we're homeschooling, because that's what fit for our kids. And that really is the beauty of being an expat also, is that you can choose the education lifestyle that fits for each of your kids and make that an education decision for each of them. And it might be different, it might be the same, but you have the freedom to make that choice. And most countries nowadays have learned and realized that, you know what, there's a lot of people out there that want to homeschool and that they're capable of doing it. And as long as you're showing the capability and that you're working with your child, they're all for it. And so, you know, then I get to choose, what does my child learn? Mm-hmm. So it might sound crazy, but, you know, one of the things that we learned early on, our daughter, obviously, she's in what will be first grade now. And, you know, that the education program actually introduces, maybe this is uncouth to say, but actually introduces proper terminology for a sex education course for our first grader. So then I, as a homeschool parent, I could say, I don't want my child learning those types of words when they're 7, right? Like, that, to me, that was crazy. Maybe that's uncouth to say that, but I'm like, I can make that choice as a parent, whether I think that's okay or not.
That's great.
You know?
That's great. What about the playmates? Playmates. Let's just lay it all out here. What about playmates? So are your children's playmates mostly little Latino children, or American?
It's a whole mix. One of my son's best friends is actually, they're a South African family that moved here. So they're, we learned all about, we had dinner with them a couple weeks ago, and they were teaching us about braai and all the traditions they have in South Africa. And then one of my daughter's best friend is another, like what we call a San Pedrano, which is a local child here from the island.
Right.
But we've got friends from all different parts of the world, because here's the thing. It's not just North Americans that are saying enough is enough. I don't want to be part of this anymore. I want to be able to have the good life at a great price.
Exactly.
And it's all different nations that are saying enough is enough. We're done. And so actually the mix of kids that my daughter and my son and my kids are interacting with is so many beautiful cultures and expressions of the world that they're a part of, and they get to see all of that. And so it really is this beautiful mix of all sorts of kids.
That's just wonderful. That's wonderful. Let me ask you a question, totally out of the blue. Are you on your show, Expat Mom, every Tuesday, are you going to show some people how to make Belizean dishes occasionally?
Oh, now I feel like I might try this. I do love cooking. I will say there's certain ones I just have not learned to master, and I've just learned there's people that do it way better than me.
All right, good.
Maybe I'll pull my mother-in-law in one time and have her make tortillas with me, because I tell you, I cannot stretch a tortilla for the life of me, no matter how much I try.
How long have you lived in Belize? How long have you?
I've been here 11 years now.
Right.
I did live for about 5 months during that period at 2 different points in time. So total of 5 months. I lived in India for 2 months, and I lived in Turkey for 2 months during that 11-year period. Yeah. But still maintain my residence and my my circumstances here in Belize.
All right. As we close, I would like you to tell people, women your own age, mothers, what would you recommend to them in terms of whether this is a move they want to make? Based upon your experience. I mean, you've been there, you've done that, you're doing it. What would you say to them to help resolve their doubts about, come on, let's go live the good. Let's make life a beach. What would you say to them?
I'd say, honestly, if you're really nervous about it and you're worried about it, make a 6-month move. I will tell you, it probably won't be 6 months. I can count on multiple hands the amount of people we know that have moved here for 6 months. That hasn't actually been 6 months. So just prepare yourself for that, because you're going to enjoy it that much. Other than that, I would really say make a choice as a family. I talk about that I'm going to talk about that in one of my episodes coming up, but really to say, get your kids involved, especially if they're older, and then make the choice as a family. Look at the options, look at the things that they can do where they're going to go, and then take a trip there. I mean, really, what does it hurt to take a vacation? Everybody wants a vacation. Yeah. I mean, right?
Exactly. And where better the vacation than in beautiful Belize? And when you get there, you already have a friend in place with Elisa, who is a very good friend. And as all of you have already seen, a delightful person. Watch her show every Tuesday, the Expat Mom. She epitomizes it. Elisa, thank you.
Thanks, Carter. Have a great day.
You do the same. Thank you. Every Thursday, you're in for a real treat, because you're going to get a chance to spend at least part of your morning with one of the most dynamic and delightful people I've ever met. And I say that sincerely. Rachel Jensen. Rachel Jensen is the host of her own offshore TV program. Comes to you, as I said, every Thursday, called Roving with Rachel, because she goes everywhere and does everything. All right. And Rachel epitomizes what's most important to you. Many of you out there, it's very, very important to you. She epitomizes the successful young single offshore businesswoman. So for those of you who think, hey, you know, I might like that, I might like to try that, here's the lady who can tell you exactly how to do it. Rachel, welcome.
Thank you so much, Carter. I'm so excited for the opportunity here. I think there are so many people out there, and single women specifically, who want to be doing something different, who want to move overseas, who want to spend time in another country. But there's always that hesitation, the what if, or is it safe, or am I going to be okay on my own? And I'm here to reassure you that it is going to be okay. You just have to take that chance, take that step, and realize that if you do decide to move overseas, it doesn't have to be permanent. You can always go back home or spend time somewhere else. So I would always encourage women and whoever else listening to just jump right in, because there are so many awesome opportunities abroad.
They can always go back home, but I'll bet they don't. And to give them an example of that, tell us how, I think 9-10 years ago, you first went there, I think, to visit, right? The Caribbean, and what happened?
I did. So I first visited Nicaragua in 2010. I was in college at that point, and I was studying biology because I wanted to follow up with medicine. And then I was also taking Spanish. So there was this medical mission trip that my college put together. They took about 20 students, and we went down to Nicaragua for a long period of time over the summer months. And during that time there, I really enjoyed myself. And, you know, the country, I don't know if people listening have been to Nicaragua before, but it's a very raw or authentic country. And I just loved it. I loved what we were doing and loved being abroad and spending time in another country. So then when I went back to school, I actually ended up studying abroad that following semester in Spain. Came back to school. I went to school in Western Pennsylvania, a small liberal arts school. And when I got back, we were in the snow belt. It was freezing. And what I realized is I didn't want to pursue medicine anymore. So it kind of got me to this point where I was like, all right, I just spent 3.5 years studying, or 2.5 years studying biology with the intent of going into medical school. I really have no idea what I want to do. So I ended up talking to my career advisor, who was actually the one who took us to Nicaragua in the first place. And she said, I know you really enjoyed your time in the country. Why don't you apply for the Peace Corps? The Peace Corps would be a great way for you to continue volunteering, since I was doing a lot of volunteer work in college. I was also taking Spanish, so I could practice my Spanish. And then, 2 years really in the grand scheme of things is not a lot of time. So 2 years right out of college is what that commitment would have been. Right. So I applied. I got accepted to teach English in Panama, and that would have been the following January. So graduated in May, and that would have been the following January. So that same career advisor said, well, I know about an internship opportunity in Nicaragua. You can go down for 3 months, spend 3 months in Nicaragua over the summer months, come back and waitress or do something until you're ready to leave for Panama. And so I was like, all right, well, that sounds like a great idea. Within 2 weeks of graduating, I was on a plane to Nicaragua. And I have to tell you, my parents are the traditional New Yorkers. They snowbird down to Florida. They really don't go to too many adventurous places. And I was like, all right, that's it. I'm moving to Nicaragua. And they're like, what? You're going to get kidnapped? Yeah, it's the most dangerous place in the world. And I feel really bad, because one of the first pictures.
So how old were you? You were 23 at this about?
I was 21, because I didn't end up doing the Peace Corps. But I was 21 right out of college. And so I feel really bad, because the first picture that I sent my mom was this security guard walking around our community with a gun. And, I just have to say, for some people, that's really intimidating. For others, like, oh, this is safe. But that's just part of the culture there in Nicaragua. It's not that we were in a dangerous community. It's just, like, you have a security system on your house. Well, they don't have security systems on their house, so communities hire security guards. So I sent that to my mom, and she goes, "That's it. Like, you got to come home. This is so dangerous." And she even says,
"Get out of there."
Right. And even today, she goes, I'm the middle child. I think the middle children are always like the problem children. But she's like, you are the reason for my gray hairs today, Rachel. But but I was there for about 1.5 years, and while I was in Nicaragua for that time period, I was coming back and forth to Belize, because in Belize, we were starting to build our team here. We bought a couple of properties with the development company. And so I ended up moving to Belize, but even taking a step back. So after that 3-month internship, I was offered a full-time position with the company. And ultimately, I decided to stay with them. I did not end up doing the Peace Corps. And so I stayed with them, stayed in Nicaragua. And that's when I started really coming back and forth to Belize quite a bit. And I loved Belize even more than I enjoyed Nicaragua. And, there are a few reasons for that. One of them is I was going to an island, Ambergris Key, where everyone drives around by golf cart, and it's cute and charming. And it's easy to meet people. It's so easy to meet people here. And, I'm an extrovert, I think, but have my introverted ways. And so it's not as if I was always wanting to go out and be social, but I was finding it a lot easier to make friends here. And
so you're on, and the island whose name I can never pronounce correctly.
Ambergris Caye.
I still won't get it right. But so you're on this island, and it is a gorgeous, it was when you moved there and still is.
Yes.
A gorgeous, almost pristine Caribbean island, right?
It's stunning. It really is. And, every day, so our office is located right on the beach, and every day I just catch myself glimpsing out beyond my computer out into the Caribbean waters and looking at the reef, because it's just a view that never gets old. And you have the beautiful palm trees and the colorful Caribbean colors. And it's just this really unique place here. And the people are so nice. And I remember the first couple of times I was here, you're driving the golf cart and people just wave to you. People just wave to you as part of the culture. And so, when I was growing up, if somebody waved to you and you didn't know them, you run. You don't engage with them. You don't interact with them. And so I'm like, what do people want from me? Why are they so nice? But it's just part of the culture.
It's part of the culture. And so now at this point, you're living in Belize. You lived in Nicaragua, which was great. Yep. And you're living in Belize, and you are a working woman, right? And
I am.
A lot of... Is it tougher to work in a culture like that? Because I think a lot of people your age in particular, somebody my age will say, well, if I move to a Caribbean island, I ain't working. I'm getting the sandals and walking the beach. But there are a lot of people your age who are now looking. What would you say about the work environment and the employment environment?
Sure. So I have two suggestions. Number one is if you are able to work from your computer, I would highly recommend doing that. We've just been seeing this huge movement of digital nomads, and a lot of it has stemmed from the past year of people working remotely and not being able to go into an office. And so what they've realized is they can do their work from anywhere in the world. So my best suggestion would be for people who need to work or want to work, try to do it from your computer, because in Belize and in these countries, it's a little bit more difficult to go through that work permit process to get the residency card. So my best first suggestion would be to get a job or find a job that you can do on your computer and don't need to necessarily look for it while you're here. But if you do need to look for work while you're here, just understand that, especially if you're a North American listening, understand that you're not going to be paid North American salary. So in Belize, minimum wage is like $3.75 Belize. So less than $2 US an hour. And I think a lot of people are like, whoa, I can't live on that. But understand, you're moving to a developing country. You're not going to be getting North American wages, even if you're working for a North American, because they need to keep in line with what the traditional salaries are here. So just bear that in mind too. There are some jobs also that are primarily reserved for Belizeans, like bartending, for example, or housekeeping, or even a doctor. They typically want you to be a Belizean if you are filling those roles. So it's a little bit more difficult to find a job. I was lucky enough where I was able to find an internship. It was a 3-month period. And then after that, it progressed into something more. But just understand that if you're coming down and looking for work here, it may be a little bit more difficult because the jobs are reserved for the locals, and you're definitely not going to be getting the sort of pay that you would be getting if you're from North America, and expect those sort of numbers.
Right. So you can remember what she says. You can work now. You can work from anywhere.
Yes.
You can work from anywhere. I mean, you're in Belize right now, right?
Yes. Yeah, I'm in Belize right now. My little toucan up there behind me.
There you go. So folks, as you can see, the connection's perfect. So your internet will be great, and you're going to probably work from remote anyway in the future. So why not work from a beautiful tropical Caribbean island? We should point out something. The pay is a lot less, but the costs are a lot less too, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's not like you're saying, wait a minute, if I get $2 an hour and my rent is $1,000 a month, I'm going to be living on that beach. But the cost of I think
get a good hammock. Just find a nice hammock, a Tempur-Pedic hammock.
No, the cost of living, is so much less that you're going to be fine. You're going to live very, very, very nicely. So we're almost out of time. If I said to you, what is the one thing you love most as a real pro at offshore living? Several different countries, almost a decade now. What is the one thing you love most? And when you say people come down here for?
Sure. So what I love the most, and I really didn't expect it when I moved, was a shift in my mindset. So I lived in a bubble. I grew up in a bubble really in the States, in New York. And although I traveled to different countries, I never really understood what it meant to live simply. And here in Belize, we don't have the big chain stores. We don't have the Targets. Getting Amazon Prime down here is a bit of a production. It's definitely not a 2-day send period. So you learn to really take a step back from all these material items that we think we need and realize that what you have is probably more than enough. And I never really, understood that growing up because I was fortunate enough to get 3 meals a day, have a roof over my head, and have the extras as well. But here, you don't really need the extras. And I've really appreciated that. And every time I go back to the States, it's just something that sticks with me is you don't need to have the shiniest new car. You don't need to be keeping up with the Joneses all the time. You don't need that brand new $2,000 bag when you realize your dollar can stretch a lot further. You can do a lot more with it in this part of the world. And I've just appreciated that. And I think a lot of people who come down here appreciate that as well, where they get rid of all their stuff in the States and they end up coming down with a couple of suitcases. And then we always have the people who are like, all right, well, I want to send 3 shipping containers worth of stuff down here to Belize. How do I do that? And that's fine. You are able to do that too. But you realize when you're down here, you can support the local economy. Like the painting right there behind me is from one of the local artists here. And in front of me, I have some local wooden chairs that were made. And so it just really helps you to understand the community aspect and getting involved and not being bogged down with the little stuff.
It's great. It's great. And you don't have to worry about paying a big sum of money to go vacation at the beach.
Right.
You are at the beach.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
That's beautiful. All right, Rachel, thank you. Thank you very much. And folks, remember, every Thursday at 10 o'clock, Roving with Rachel, she's going to fill you in on the young, single, successful businesswoman lifestyle. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Carter. Bye, everyone.
Folks, the gentleman I'm about to introduce you to has a very unique distinction. He is not an offshore entrepreneur. He is the offshore entrepreneur. And what he's going to do every Friday, Mike Cobb is on his own show, Open Mike, is going to share his secrets of success with you. And that literally is worth its weight in gold. So, Mike, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Carter. Great to be here.
Well, I'm very, very pleased. I think now you and I have known each other, I think 20 years now.
Something like that.
Yeah, I think I was only about 70 when we met and you were 15. I believe.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I think that was what it was. Yes, it was just. But Mike, folks, as you can tell, Mike is not only a business, he is a dear friend, and I love the guy. And I want to put something in perspective because it's really true. And folks, you're going to want to watch his show every Friday. And I want to tell you something. When you watch this gentleman, you're going to know that Leo DeRocher was wrong, that some nice guys do finish first. And that's Mike. Mike, you have, I think you sold your computer company by 1996. Was that it? And headed offshore. Is that about right?
Well, yeah, I headed offshore actually in '94 for my very first trip overseas. And a lot of people buy a rental property, their first investment, say a rental property, somewhere around them. My first rental property in 1994 was in Belize, right? So, I mean, here I am, a 30-year-old kid, or a young man or whatever, and I'm buying a rental property overseas. But it was the right thing to do. I mean, when I went to Belize back then, goodness, that's like what, 20, whatever, how many years ago?
Yeah,
26 years ago, whatever it is. Anyway, I mean, like, I could see the future. When I walked around Ambergris Caye back then, I said to myself, this is like Key West, like 20 years ago. And I thought, my goodness, this is a time machine. I can go back in time, quote unquote, and I can buy something here that in the next 20 or 30 years is going to evolve into a lot like, Key West has evolved. And sure enough, Carter, here we are, whatever, 7 years later, it has. And it's very, very exciting. Yeah.
It has. So, folks, what you're hearing right now is when you tune in on Fridays to Open Mike, this man is your offshore investment counselor. Okay? You can't beat that. You can't beat that, particularly in today's world where your money is at high risk. You own resorts, residential resort communities. Can I put it that way? In 4 countries. Is that right?
Yep, we do. Well, actually, we have the communities in 3 of the 4. The 4th property we haven't developed yet. But yes, we have properties in Belize, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and Panama. And we've got, and the Costa Rica property is set aside for future development, but we are developing residential communities in the other 3 countries right now. In fact, we've developed them. I mean, people living full time, and it's great. I mean, it's just wonderful to have people moving down and really becoming expats. It's exciting for them. It's exciting for us.
And you have and these are gorgeous communities. Gorgeous communities. I mean, it's just folks, look it up. Grand Pacifica. What is it on Ambergris? What is I can never pronounce that right.
Ambergris Key. That's
Ambergris Key. What's the name of that one so they can look it up? Google it.
So we have Grand Bayman on Ambergris Key, but we also have our tiny home community as well. TES, TES. So those cozy homes, I think you like to call them, Carter.
I like to call them cozy, yes.
Cozy homes, I like that. That's good. Right. So we've got the cozy homes in Ambergris Key, and then Grand Bayman, which is a Best Western branded resort community. And then at Grand Pacifica, we've got several neighborhoods: San Diego Viejo, Casita Village, Santa Barbara, and our new Ava community, which is, again, a cozy home community. Each of these has unique flavor and character. And then in Panama, we have a property on the Pacific Ocean, and we have a brand new property we just acquired first week of January. The title was registered to us, so it's only a month or so. You're truly in our name. That's in the Highlands, Carter. And, a lot of times.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
People think tropics, they think beach. That's the first thing we think of, right? Beach. But the tropical highlands is it's actually my favorite weather of all of them. It's springtime all the time. 65, 70 degrees at night, 75, 80 degrees in the day, every day of the year. It's spectacular. My favorite climate by far. But, a lot of people love the beach, so we're there too. But this is a very different and unique climate type for the folks looking for tropical, but yet not beach.
And what's the name of that area?
It's near Boquete.
Boquete, right?
Near Boquete, yes.
So in Boquete, folks, and this is fascinating to me, and I think there are some of you out there right now who are like me. I am just not a beach person. Not only do I not like water, I don't even like sand. Okay, so for me, Boquete is perfect because Boquete has that great spring all year round, and yet the homes, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of them actually have fireplaces because it gets cool enough in the evening in the winter to light up your fireplace.
You can, yeah.
I mean, that's just that's heaven. That's heaven. So you deal with expats all over Central America. What's their attitude now? They must feel a great sense of relief. All right, let me just say it. Having escaped the U.S., I'm just going to say it. There's no use pulling punches here.
Oh, it's Carter. Look, a lot of people want to escape, and people want to escape for many different reasons. I mean, obviously, the political stuff has gotten people fired up for a long time. But the COVID thing, it's really interesting because people aren't just escaping from the United States. What's happening in the data is, and I served on the board of directors of the National Association of Realtors, so I'm privy to a lot of their economic analysis and their research. And one of the things that they found this year, last year, now 2020, was people were leaving the big cities. New York, San Francisco. They were moving to the suburbs because they wanted to get away from these crowded situations of COVID. Right. Well, now people are moving on out. I mean, I know that's that's sort of a hot button. What is it? All that kind of stuff. But the fact of the matter is people are moving, and they're moving not just out of these big cities to suburbs and rural areas in the States. They're moving overseas too. So yeah, Carter, people are escaping for many reasons. And, and I lived overseas. I lived for 14 years in Nicaragua as an expat. I raised a family there. And what we found, which is really, let me back up. There's 2 reasons people go overseas. They're either running from, using that escape, they're running from something, or they're running to something. And what's really interesting, Carter, is you've always talked about this, the dream, right? What is that dream? What are people running to? And what they're running to is what we found. My wife and I, we moved to Nicaragua for 2 or 3 years to get our Grand Pacifica project started. 3 years into it, we decided to stay because we loved the quality of life and the much lower cost of living. We were living the dream. And so, we didn't really run from anything to get there. But once we got there, we understood why people are running to as well. And that's really what we're seeing. or seeing people who are, leaving, escaping for whatever reason. But when they get there, wow, they realize, why did I wait so long? I mean, this is fantastic. And heck, now people can work from anywhere. People are working from anywhere. So if you're thinking about a retirement home in 5 years or 10 years, okay, fine. But why wait? Why don't you go down? Yeah, right. If you like to dive or fish or surf or snorkel or play golf, year round, you don't have to wait. You can move there now and you can work all day and play golf or dive or snorkel on the weekends and live the lifestyle you've always wanted to live today and still be working until you retire. So, right, the world has opened up in some new and exciting ways.
Well, the what we say, the Offshore Club, we tell people that if you move offshore to the places like Mike is talking about, you can live the good life at a great price. And it really is true. You're not going, I'm just going to tell all of our viewers, because, Coffee with Carib Carter, I'm going to tell you the truth, because my job is to care about you and to help you. And Mike's right. We're selling dreams to dreamers, and we're all dreamers, thank God. But we're also selling get away from things, get away from nightmares. Okay. The nightmare you're living in the US right now, it ain't going to get any better. I was in politics for 50 years. Okay. In Washington, in the swamp. What did you say? I am sane. Yeah. Well, no, I'm not saying that's the problem. But I was a political operative in Washington for 50 years. I'm telling you, the politicians, what they're doing to you now, they're going to tighten that screw. So what can you do? Dream, and then live the dream. It's what Mike's talking about is real. This is real. A place where, where the sun, the sand, and the surf, the whole 9 yards, it's really there. And what you're taught with it, what you're looking at right now is a gentleman who has lived that life and has helped. Mike, how many people have you helped live that life now over the past 20 years or so?
Thousands. I have no idea. Thousands. Yeah.
Thousands. Yeah. So this coming Friday, every Friday from here to eternity, Mike is your ambassador at large. He is your offshore investment counselor. He is the guy who can tell you that the opportunities that are there, partially because he's building a lot of those opportunities and he knows the others. Okay. The whole point. Go ahead, Mike.
No, Carter, thank you. And one of the things, look, you talked about, I always like to say it's not all peaches and cream or the rose bush has some thorns, right? And one of the things we've done over the years is we've created incredible resources. The one that I'm actually most proud of is our consumer resource guide. It's not a sales document. It's a document to help any consumer, anybody who's thinking about owning property overseas, right? How to do it better, how to perform due diligence. And we give that resource away for free. So if any of the folks want the consumer resource guide, it really helps people how to think differently at the end of the day, because there are thorns, right? But and the biggest difference, by the way, is this. We're moving from the land of, seller beware. Think of all the regulatory agencies, the different, types of rules, regulations, licensing bodies, blah, 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 right? To a world of buyer beware, where maybe the regulations exist, but they're not enforced or lightly enforced. And so the changing of how we think is critically important, because we're moving into this buyer beware. Now, I don't like to make that a big deal, because if you think differently, you can make great decisions. You just have to think a little differently. So, but Carter, your point about laying it out and just like the good, the bad, the ugly, it's important. And we do it as a development company, we do it.
But let me make clear, when you say buyer beware, I own a home in Honduras, as you know, and I'm going to buy one in Nicaragua, because I just think that's a wonderful place to live now. I don't feel that I have to beware as a buyer in those countries. In the US, I do, because I don't know what the hell these people are going to do to me next. I know in this state, they just increased the property taxes. Now, I want you to think about something.
Yeah.
They have bankrupted the state with their phony COVID scam. And now they're saying, okay, we're bankrupt. You don't have a job anymore, so we want you to pay more taxes.
Pay more taxes, right? Yeah.
So in America, it's buyer beware. But I think my feeling, and correct me if I'm wrong, if those watching right now come to you, or to the people you work with, the buyer doesn't have to beware, because the buyer has a friend and an advocate. Wow.
Yeah, it's true. And by the way, when I talk about buyer beware, what I'm really talking about are customs that are very different in Latin America that we might not be used to. So, for example, one of my favorites is, are all the bathrooms in the home that you're buying plumbed for hot water? Right. And, and I like a hot shower personally, but, in Latin America where, especially if you're at, sea level and it's hot, maybe you'll find that a lot of the bathrooms aren't plumbed for hot water. It's a cold water shower. Now, maybe you're okay with that. Maybe you're not. But our point in the Consumer Resource Guide is to simply ask that question or test it to see so that you know ahead of time what you're getting, right? So a lot of it's not so much in the sense of buyer beware as much as it's these customs that are different or these types of ways of doing things that are different that we are not accustomed to, right?
Yeah, making sure people get what they want. That's great. And we'll ask our super producer, Brian Bauman, to put across the bottom of the screen where exactly they can send to you to get the consumer guide, which is a great service. And then keep in mind that you can also be in contact with Mike personally. Every Friday he's going to be right there. And Mike is a kind of guy who, let me tell you, this is a guy, I've known him all these years. I don't think I've ever sent him an email or a text that we didn't get a response, and it's a godsend. And now everyone watching this is in the same position, Mike. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me, Carter. Very exciting to get this kicked off.
This is very exciting. Thank you very much, folks.
You're welcome.
We'll talk later. Wow. They are great. They are, folks, they are great people. Brian, thank you. Thank you. They are great people. And I want to make something clear to you. Your Offshore Club is friends and family. Okay. We're friends and family. So you never have to think to yourself, well, when I get there, I won't know anybody. There's 4 people you're going to know right off the bat. And you saw how friendly they are and how warm they are and how genuine. And so don't think to yourself ever again, well, I don't know anybody. You know somebody there now. Okay. And they are absolutely going to be at your beck and call. All right. They're going to be at your beck and call. So I just love those people, and you're going to love them too. And they're going to love you. So I want to keep our Monday show, our Monday get together to no more than 30 to 40 minutes. And I blab for 10 minutes at the beginning at least. And then we have these great, we hear from these wonderful 4 people, your new friends and family south of the border. And so we're not going to go in today to the Mad Max report, things that I want you to escape from in the U.S. I'm sorry. We have to be honest about it. Okay. We have to always be honest with each other. We're not going to go in that today. We're not going to go into the $1,000 listing Caribbean, even though I do have one for you. I tell you what I'm going to do. Instead of going into them, I want you to look 2 places, go to, just to show you, this is not something where you're saying Carter owns a home, he's trying to say, no, go to Viviun, VIVIUN.com. That's VIVIUN.com. And go to, you'll see a little box up in the upper right, type in Nicaragua, and you're going to find a home there in Genotig, I think it's called, a $36,000 home that you're going to look at and say, I can have that for $36,000. Sweetheart, get my checkbook. Okay. It's that good. Also, I want you to go to ecidevelopment.com. Okay. Mike, who you just saw a few minutes ago, that's his company. Okay. So he's going to help you. And go down to what they call tiny homes. I like to call them cozy homes. But scroll down on that page and look at those, quote, tiny homes. They're cozy homes is what they are. And for a price you just won't believe, you can get a home on the beach in a gated community in Panama or in Belize that you're just going to fall in love with. And when they say a cozy home, I promise you I was not going to go into great detail. Let me go into a little detail. The home might be, let's say, 700, 800, 900 square feet. That's the inside living. The whole home, when you take the balcony support, is about 1,400 square feet. And you say, well, that's outside. Folks, it's the Caribbean. It's the Caribbean. One of the things I had to learn when I first moved to Honduras, and I would see people with the living room furniture on the front porch, and I'd say, well, that's very strange living accommodations. And they would explain to me, Carter, there is no inside and outside. You're in the Caribbean. It ain't going to snow. Okay? Like it is where I am right now in the U.S. So look that up. That's all I'm going to tell you about for my $1,000 listing Caribbean. But every week I'm going to bring you at least one, maybe two and I'm going to tell you where to look for them. Okay. Okay. You buy it, Vivian. I'm not making any money off of it. I want you to make the move. I want you to make the move. I'm going to be making the move back soon. So hopefully we'll be neighbors. Okay. And then don't forget, Angelita is going to show you how to make baleadas soon. We've got a lot of great things in store. Okay. It's your Offshore Club. I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you. And so go to the Offshore Club, write to me, ask me your questions, give me your comments. You might say, Carter, you're really over the top. That's fine. If I get too many like that, I'll try and tone it down a little bit. If not, then we'll talk exactly the way we're talking now. Straight from the shoulder, heart to heart. And I'm going to tell you how you two, you just like all those you just heard from, people are going to hear from, as I said, from here to eternity, how you two can now, as a member of the Offshore Club, live the good life at a great price, okay? Where the sun never sets on your enjoyment. So let's do this thing every Monday. I'll see you next Monday at 10 right here.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for joining us at the Offshore Club. For more information on the Offshore Club or to contact Carib Carter, visit www.offshore.club today. www.offshore.club. That's www.offshore.club. See you next time at the Offshore Club.